Hey y'all, it's Sarah. Back again, and this time I'm talking about crowdfunding and Kickstarter. This Chattanooga Symphony that I work for is starting to consider doing a Kickstarter or some kind of crowdfunding thing, and given all the news with the New York City Opera and some other Kickstarter groups, I thought now would be a great time to kind of explore this idea. So if you've never heard of crowdfunding, then it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a group of people that get together and fund most generally a project, and most often they do it online through places like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Some arts groups and arts councils use a thing called Project to Give. So check and see if your county or your city has that. And in Chattanooga we have something called causeway.org, which is like a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, but it's really specific to Chattanooga. So some interesting stats that I found while I was looking at this all stuff, that Kickstarter is actually on track to give more to the arts than the National Endowment for the Arts. I thought that was a really interesting statistic. Some of the other things that I looked at for us, arts organizations, and some of the projects that I looked at on average had about a $100 donation rate of $106, $107. I didn't scour all of Kickstarter for an exact average, but the ones that I looked at, 106. And in Chattanooga, which is a smaller city, on Causeway or some of the Chattanooga specific sites, the average donation was about $70. So if you're sitting there wondering, well, I get campaign letters all the time, and I'm sure they go out to other people that support my organization or that support this organization or whatever, how is that different? Well, it's not really. I think crowdfunding online is kind of a newer version of annual campaigns or capital campaigns. It's probably closer to capital campaigns because it most often funds a specific project. So really there were two things that brought this idea on. I sat down when I was first asked to be a vlogger and came up with ideas that I'd like to look at, and so Kickstarter was one of them. I'm kind of a little bit of a nerd, a data geek, and this is kind of a cool data thing. But also, kind of for my work, I work as the Community and Patron Engagement Manager at the Chattanooga Symphony, and one of the things we've been kicking around is a Kickstarter. And so kind of researching that and ideas and topics and things we would look at. Some of the average donations I looked at, and all of that as well. So that's one part, and then the second part is actually kind of timely. I heard an NPR story about the New York City Opera's plans to do $1 million Kickstarter project to fund their 2013-14 season, and thought, that's really interesting, and came in and there were all kinds of blog posts about it, and some hubbub and criticism and critiques, and some really interesting things that are coming up about it. If you are not following that, if you're not aware, the New York City Opera has to raise $7 million by the end of this year. And don't quote me on that. You can go Google it for accurate information. But $1 million of that they're raising through Kickstarter. The last time I looked at it, which was a couple of hours ago, they had over 900 backers and $114,000 out of that $1 million donation, and about 8 days left to raise $1 million. So it's raised $900,000 in about 7 days. That's a huge amount of money to raise in 30 days, but an interesting challenge and an interesting thing to bring to it. We're down the road from Nashville here in Chattanooga, and Nashville just recently funded a Kickstarter project to record composer Joan Towers' works, and it's about $15,000, and they had about 85-ish backers. So a question that came up while I was looking into all of this and around the New York City Opera's program was, should arts organizations, should professional groups actually be doing Kickstarters? Do they have any business doing that? Drew McManus, who has a blog about arts administration and orchestras, really appropriately and eloquently wrote that question out. So you can check out his blog. I'll post a link later. But my personal opinion, and I'm not the Kickstarter queen, so don't quote me, but I do think that arts organizations have a place in doing this. If for no other reason, then it's a way to engage with people, and it's a way to interact with audiences and with potential donors. And lots of times those donors and those people that are on Kickstarter or on Indiegogo are a little bit younger than the typical symphony audience or the typical orchestra donor. I do think, though, a caution that it can't just be like, here's our great project, give us your money, help us do this, give us your money. Like, it can't just be that. There has to be really meaningful two-way engagement that comes about to us, and it has to be relevant for the community. You can't just put out a project and not have any outcome from it. It has to be relevant, it has to be engaging. And the rewards that come with it, most of those places have rewards that are associated with it. Those also have to be relevant to the project, and they have to be engaging as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and any successes that you've had about Kickstarter. Maybe a little different for individual musicians than for organizations, but I'd love to hear them either way. So you can leave a comment on polyphonic.org or comment on YouTube or tweet me at sgmars. So see y'all next time. Bye!